good pressure for Wylie. So other horses that he doesn't know for sure. Except under saddle, he hasn't shown that, I got on the trail. But two on either end of him, with us being in the middle was a lot. But, I mean, not a lot, but it was good. I mean, and I think, I have to slow down. What I've learned from the auditing this time, when they do the release, whatever, let them have time to just sit in it for a minute.
Yeah.
Because you noticed that on the last time we worked, I went real quick.
Right.
And I don't just give it to them for a minute and soak it in. So, working on that. But, what was I going to say? He will lower his head now, but I also don't feel like he I mean, obviously that's bobbing up, but he'll keep it down. But I wonder if there's still some tension in there.
Oh yeah, there's lots.
Yeah.
Because the tension isn't always in the neck.
Right.
So then if he softens his head and neck, and I would be mindful of this because he's just trying to appease you.
He is.
So then what you have to do is you have to actually get away from the neck faster.
Okay.
So then I would start walking him, I'd start checking the shoulders, I'd start checking the barrel.
I don't know which, if you.
Sure, whatever you want to do for now is fine.
I mean, okay.
Because what he needs right now is a lot of support.
Okay.
So then you would go into his body, just start leading him. Now lean into his shoulder, raise your hand up just a little bit. Good, so he's not going fast. That's it. Just keep your hand up because he's trying to dump his head down.
Yeah.
That's it, until you feel the shoulder move over and the reins start to soften. So he's still trying to hold that tension. Keep that shoulder moving. Feel it, stay on that shoulder. Beautiful. Don't get too big though, because you don't just want the shoulder just to go blasting forward.
Okay.
You know, like if you do too much, you're gonna lose it. Now it becomes light. But right now, this environment is in that shoulder.
Yeah.
So then that's where the down wasn't giving you much result anymore.
So now with me, I was just sticking in it. So I need to talk to the real tension, which is not the neck.
And that's why the primary effect of the body mapping is to diagnose where he's holding the environment.
100% both shoulders.
Yeah, so then
100%.
I would be out of his neck as quick as possible.
Okay, so just.
You actually have to raise his head so he doesn't just throw his head down and reject the connection to the shoulder. So then just stay connected to that shoulder and then move forward.
No.
Good morning, Cassette. Put your stick a little bit ahead of him. Raise his head even higher. See right now, there. Okay, so he's also below his posture point, which is making him get fast.
Yep.
So you raise his head, lean on that shoulder, keep leaning on it. Good, keep leaning on it. Raise his head, like just a little bump in the line. That's it. That's it. Good. And then, okay, now lower it because he's stuck.
Yeah.
Okay, but keep moving into the shoulder. So this is the leadership element of. Okay, good. Give him that for now. Okay, because the shoulder started to respond.
Yeah.
But there's a sweet spot, Mary, of if he's too low, plowing forward. If he's too high, he's going to lock. And you have to be able to feel that middle spot where he can take his shoulders over softly. Make sense?
Yeah. And I was going to say there's so much more leadership. I know I finished the material, but I have got to work on the leadership.
Yep. And that honestly is just doing the work. Doing the work. You know, like just trying it again. So the head and neck are obviously the easy releases, but most horses don't pack their leadership issues in their neck. The neck lets go so easy.
His jaw locks, he does have, he's tight clenched with that, just from having body work, but
Sure.
Shoulders.
But a lot of times the pole's locking with the association of the hindquarters.
Okay.
So, these are, it's the reason why in the body mapping, you go through, and first of all, you feel the shoulder, you feel the barrel, you feel the hindquarters, go to the other side, feel it, get a little bit of a plan, and then try to isolate where's the head height to allow that shoulder to release. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so just lean them forward again. Stress enough just the importance of that body mapping piece. Okay, now, so that head and neck is good. And now lean into the shoulder first. And then, that's it. Use just a little bit of pressure with your stick. In front of him, behind him. That's it? Okay.
Yeah.
Good. That's a good start.
Yeah.
So there, the shoulder actually moved.
Yep.
But that doesn't necessarily mean it's softened. Good. Good. Now, if you were to turn, okay, let me just see if I can help a little bit. Do you normally use a stick or a flag?
Well, I use both. He knows the flag 100%. I just didn't know the pressure, but
Sure.
I don't think it's pressure to him.
Well, the cool part is that what we want him to understand is good. So we want to find, this is just really fun because just my presence and my energy, it's like kind of like illuminating the effect. Good. So then I stay on the shoulder. But see, if you can tell, what he wants to do is he wants to actually freeze or leave in tension. Okay, and so then I'm just staying on that. This is exactly Sky's lesson in just isolating what is the difference between, there we go. What is the difference between all the things tension can manifest as? So the first thing he did was he just got tight and wanted to leave. Like, I'm scared. Okay, and then the second thing he did is, so he tensed and went back, then he froze, then he went fast, then he froze, and went fast and froze until I could help him understand that I'm actually talking to letting go. It's the most impacting effect of pressure that is necessary, okay? But as I ask these questions again, I want him to realize, so I need to feel that shoulder start to move, but you see again, he wants to do that in tension. Okay, and then I keep gently playing with my pressure because that speed that he's giving, good, I'll give him that. The speed that he's giving makes it hard because when they get fast, it makes us want to back away. And then this left shoulder is definitely firmer. So there, he just kind of leaned his nose into me and kind of like thought of gumming my arm. Okay, so that's just it. That's it. I'll take this for now. Good. So I ask with the pressure and try to stay connected to that shoulder. Good. And then partly playing with this nose and my arm here because he's thinking of leaning his arm against his head against my arm. So just a little bit more of a boundary on my arm. And it's like you're not in trouble, but that my arm is not push throughable. So then he'll go through his little routine of the things he thinks he needs to do. But this left shoulder, good. There we go. There we go. Good. Okay, and then you see how I brought that right back to me, like right back. So then that means that that conversation is not done to him. Okay. Good. There we go. There we go. Good. Good. So the 2 points on this side, okay, so yeah, like just bring that conversation right back in. Yep. Now the two things that he does is you see how, that's it. It goes shoulders and nose. There. There. Good. And then what he wants to do with that, good, is he wants to tighten up, back up, or get fast. And then he's quite quick to want to lean it back in. But partly, all of this is more extreme because of the environment.
Right.
Good, good. So I really try to think about it as I want to be crystal clear with the clarity of him being introduced to me, like if I'm push throughable, if I'm not, but super kind, but super clear. So if he pushes harder, then I just try to meet him with that. Like I'm not going to cave, but I'm trying not to get stronger to go towards him. It's just my arm got a little firmer. And then he just touched that. And there were spots there where he didn't necessarily think that was how that should go. Like right here, it's like my arm just doesn't release. You see, there we go. So then he has to try to calibrate himself to actually make that change. Good. And at this stage, my arm is more of a boundary, so then he's like a little more sensitive right here, right now, and that'll be fine for a minute. So yes, I do want to touch him, but he has invited the conversation of a boundary more than he's invited the conversation with his head as a softness. So then I will entirely honor that for him, and I'm not trying to avoid that conversation, but just, that's it. There we go. There we go. So soon what will happen is, when we start asking this question, soon, right away, that shoulder will soften. Good. But his first thought that he would like to do is he would like to just drop his head. And then he wants to push his head at me. And what that means, Mary, is that just a little bit too much head and neck as an effect, right? Because it's a good thing, but it can be overly done if the tension isn't there. And the way to know is that he drops his head, pops it right back up. It means the tension's not actually in that body part. Does that make sense? And then what he'll do is he'll drop his head and he'll get right back to worrying about whatever it was. So then we have to start going through his whole body. And for me, that's it. We want to get to that place, good, where he's able to feel, that's it, good. Then I hold his head in just enough position, but I stay on that shoulder. There we go, good. And so at this point, he keeps going through the exact same process. So I pick it up. First of all, he just freezes. Then he wants to plow, okay? And then I just want to, so here he just kind of tightens. And then I'm just trying to open up that door. Good, good, good. Excellent, okay? And this is actually good. He's starting to sustain the release of that shoulder. Good, good. And now he's starting to understand that I'm actually looking for the release and not just the tension. Okay, and again, I'm not trying to hold his head there. What I'm doing is I'm trying to not disconnect from the question. So if he threw his head up even higher, I just go with him. But I'm trying to keep my connection. Good. There we go. Good. And then for him to kind of feel what that is. Again, that release is the primary question, and not his good. So now we're into the next part, which is when he feels pressure, good. Can that shoulder soften? Good. And that's the mentorship of the next step. Now this is similar to what I was doing with Sky, but it's just as a baby, it's a little more of the baby step of it, because he's so much more vibrant and alive. And you know, where the other horse would just hold and then he would chomp. You know, it's like a little bit more of a holding pattern. Again, here, this pressure does not mean tense. You don't have to get, that's it. There we go. Good. Thank you. Good. Good. And so if you also observe, Mary, I want to do my best to connect to the tension, but I'm not trying to tell him what to do with it there. See, he ends up lowering his head. I'm not asking him to lower his head. So I'd also like to refine your awareness of connecting to the tension, and then I'm just sitting with the tension. I'm not telling him to put his head anywhere. That's it. I'm just waiting to feel the tension dissolve in my hands. Like, think about it like you're just holding something, and then all of a sudden you feel it change in your hands. But I'm not telling it where to go. Okay? And I think that's just a little piece, because in the beginning it actually has a positive impact, because you know, as he starts to soften something, it's very good. But so then again, these shoulders just stiffening up. That boy. Good. And so just, that's it. Just, good. So this is a really good experience for him, because this is really testing his capacity, you know. But then for him to realize, you know, that as we're doing this, He's not in danger. He doesn't have to defend himself. Like, there's a real piece to just like mental depth on this lesson, where he can start feeling like just those little spots, because it's a little bit harder for him. You know, it's just testing those little edges, and that to me is a very big part to this whole process. Good, good, good. There we go. Good. And now that's starting to have a little bit more feel in it. How's that, you two?
It was weirdly okay.
Good, perfect. Hopefully too, if he kind of stayed under you a lot, then there's probably he's not pushing against you, hey? Good. So this is just then that little belief of, I gotta get away from the pressure. And then you see how he wants to come to me, but he's also wanting to bring that shoulder. So there's a little bit of a balance there of him thinking this is an answer, but it also is him wanting to talk to this insecurity. So it's kind of like a positive thing, but it's also something I need to help him with. So then you see, good, yeah, that's it. Good.
Him throwing it into you is meaning what?
He wants to talk to you about it.
Okay.
It's like, this is what horses will do with each other. They will talk to each other through, good. Good. Because his fear is in his shoulder. Like, the manifestation of his fear is the tension of that shoulder. So then what they'll do is, when they get a little bit nervous, if he starts to trust me, or initially what he was doing was he was actually expecting me to soften to his shoulder. So that was him then going to, if I would have softened to that, then he's entirely justified to act on this any way he sees fit. But because I didn't, then we had a conversation about it. So it can look a little confrontational, but that's like two horses just bumping into each other. And I want to do that as calm and relaxed as possible, but yet still have my boundaries. Okay, so then he's not in trouble, but also running through me is not the answer. And then I would hope that my confidence is greater than his anxiety, so slowly he starts to become confident in my presence. But it all depends on what happens in the space, because the space is how horses talk about confidence, right? And that's just such a big deal. So then I get more and more to where, as I ask these questions, he recognizes that he can soften, good, and then that's it. As I step in, he can respond, good. And then our next step in any situation is dependent upon his capacity to let go of the anxiety, so that we're not amplifying the anxiety and attaching a known of something new in an anxious state. So then we ride him and he's anxious, and then you start picking up, right, well, now he's thinking about that in an anxiety. So then the first step of the newness is for you to be able to reestablish a pretty good connection to those releases. Good. That's it. So that's getting really good in his head and neck now. But you see, again, and I'll show you this, Mary, I am never telling him where to go with it. Okay? All I'm doing is I'm just, see this, is that, see there, it's almost like an evasion then, because I wasn't really asking him to do anything. But I just connect until I feel him start to soften. Okay? And so it's like, does he receive my energy more so than does he actually move? Because then what happens is they will move instead, or to avoid receiving my energy. Right? That's it. Good. 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 Okay, so then it's just, can you let go of that thought, right? Young horses not being able to let a thought go is probably what makes, if there was a danger in working young horses, it's when they won't let go of a thought. That thought could be, I'm scared and I want to leave. That thought could be, I'm not comfortable with what's happening. So that's generally where if they were to buck, that's why, because they're not letting go of the thought of how they feel. So then that's what kind of that part is that, you know, I want to know that he can release this thought, like the tension in those shoulders. Good. So if I come in, that's it. Good. And I'll give him that because there's a bit more flow in that. Now again, he wants to come back and talk to that right shoulder. So we're going to do that. Good. Good. Okay, and then when he looks out the door, I want to know, yes, all right. There. So we start, okay, now we're back into the shoulder. And this is just the horse communication piece of this. Like I am intentionally allowing him to lead the story mostly. There we go. Good. Good, bud. Good. Good. Until I can get to a place where this release, good, becomes more primary. Good. Okay, and then let that happen, and then apply it. Yes. All right, see now that's changing faster. To me, it's absolutely imperative that a young horse will receive me and will change their thought. If they won't receive my energy, you're not safe. Like, don't add more. And if they won't change their thought, because both of those pieces mean if he won't receive me, then he holds on to his tension, then he will hold on to the tension and it will go to that hard thought. And that's then when a behavior, that's how they emanate a behavior. So this is just coming, and I want to do my best to be as methodical and consistent as I possibly can. And then as I apply this pressure, that's where he's like, oh, you know, how do I respond to this? Good. Okay, there we go. And then I let him walk. But getting to a place where I can, and again, I don't want him to think he can't look, but I just want to know how much does it take for him to let go of it for me. Good. And then I really love the consistency of this. Good. And this is an important piece, Mary, where it's important. Good. See, I want to put his head in a position where he really prioritizes that shoulder. Good. And not his head and neck. And I stay calm, but I'm very clear. And that's the hard challenge. A lot of times when we're calm, we get weak in our presence. And then what happens is there's not enough clarity. So to the best of my ability, I just want to work on those two pieces. Good. Okay, perfect. I change, and he changes. Good. And slowly what will happen is he'll start receiving my energy more. But these are actually really big lessons because it's probably the most he's felt challenged. You know, like there's probably, you know, the arena, the other horses, there's all these pieces, a new person. And I love these spots because what happens is you're talking to a new level, good, of what we do when we feel stressed. How do we handle ourselves? I would say that with people, my most defining connection point with people is how they handle being pressured. Like, because that's what makes you safe or not, right? If you know they're going to lose it, then that means now you're going to worry every time pressure shows up in that relationship. Okay? Yeah? Right? Totally. So then we stop, and then we'll avoid those conversations because we don't want what we know is going to happen. Okay, and that's then us avoiding these conversations. But what I want to do is I want to say, okay, let's just talk about it. Okay, good. And then I want to mentor these things. Good, buddy. Good. And I would say that would be my temptation too. Anybody who desires peace will generally be tempted to get smaller rather than engage.
I've gotten definitely bigger, like my presence.
Yeah.
But being consistent and not letting him go in that tension is going to be the big leadership.
That's the art of it.
Yeah.
That's the art of it, Mary.
Yep.
Is that he understands that every time I ask these questions, I'm always releasing him, having freed him from the anxiety that produced it. That I am his freedom. Okay, and that's the challenging key because it sometimes looks, but this is horse talk. Like, this is how horses have this conversation with each other. They engage each other, and then if you've noticed how many times he's wanted to push that shoulder into me. Good. Okay, good, bud. Good. 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 See the space now, it's like feely. And then as I step in, that shoulder doesn't lock. Good. And now what we're doing is we're starting to build standards. Like, how much does he need to release? You see? And that's also a thing. How much? And now we're going to play with the mind space balance. Good. So if I pressure a little bit, I should draw. And then he should be able to keep moving. Because you've already played with some of these things, Mary. So you can already see he's kind of thinking about it, which is great. Okay? Then if I bring up my energy, that's trot. But if I apply a little pressure, that's draw. But if I stay, you see we're trying to figure out that sweet spot. And that you should be able to get him. Good. And then if I apply a lot of pressure, that should mean all the way in. And I want that. I want him to feel like when he gets pressure, when he feels pressure, you know, like hunt me down. Come on, buddy. Not get scared and run away. So in here, I'm talking head and neck again. But look at how little, like that rope still has a bend in it. Good. See, I'm not doing that part. That's all him. I just connect to it until I can feel those muscles do this. That's the key. This, that's up to him. But if I go to this without that, that's where it'll pop right back up. So this to me is just a wonderful lesson on, you know, like a little bit more intensification of regulation. This is one of the pieces for my young horses I crave these days. Because you have the most impact on these days. Because you really see a truth. And what you like wonder in the back of your mind of like, how are they going to respond when this happens? It's like, here's the day. And then one, you get to see your homework start to show up. Two, you get to see some of the spots where he shows up when he gets worried, which is tiny, not necessarily a hole, but it's an area that needs to be addressed more, right? And then we can have that conversation, and then we can get a little bit bigger, and we have the conversation, and it does nothing but breed confidence, because you start recognizing how to have the conversation, and you know how he's going to respond when you do. And that's what I mean about that thing. See, our relationship grows the most when you know how I'm going to handle you when you struggle. And that you're free to struggle and you know how I will be with that. And that's a little bit this. When I see how he's going to react when the pressures get bigger, if he's struggling, okay, it gives me a reference of what we can do today. If he totally starts letting go and starts to soften, that gives us another reference. And that's why I say I'm always trying to listen to the moment. I lean into that shoulder as I'm applying the pressure. Good. Not a boy. And that's the beginning. That release is the beginning of the carriage work. Good. So you've really done a great job on the mind space work, Mary. Like, you know, you can just tell he understands that when I touch that pressure, you see that is a mind space circle. Okay? Because he is not circling me because he's worried I'm going to pull on his face. Okay? And that is your fault. That's awesome. Like, I mean that in a good way. Yeah. Yeah, like he's doing that because you did that right. Like, and then when we touch the rein, it should mean soften. So I don't want him to hit the end of the rein out there because I don't want him to, because what will happen is if he's going forward and he hits the end of the rein, he's going to brace as he's not going to soften to it. So then what ends up happening is the more he knows to soften to it, okay, which he does, and this is coming. So then what happens is when he starts to hit the end of the rein, he will soften to it naturally. See, like when he just, so we'll just position this trot. So now the mind space balance already starts teaching him to bend. Okay, but then if he feels that rein start to snap, he'll soften on his own, because now he starts to understand that that's what it means. Okay, and now what we need is just a bit of rhythm. So what he wants to do is he wants to kind of like do it for a couple seconds and then stop. So now what we need is just move a little bit, find some balance. If you notice, he's like, okay, I should stop now. We should stop now. We should stop now. Instead of like, just find your rhythm here now, kid. And this is like covering ground out on the pasture or on a trail. You're good. You're not in trouble. Like, movement shouldn't make you feel like you're in trouble. It's so snappy with that, hey? Like there, he says, oh, I saw your flag move. And so I want to really reference that just because you feel my flag move, bud, doesn't mean you smash your way in here. There we go. See that? That's right. See, now that's a little bit of a conversation. Okay. Good. Now walk. And now I'm going to go up here and stop him and be distinct. But you can already see the desire for the liberty work. Like, he wants to come on. And that stuff is all superb for your liberty work.
Well, I definitely give more liberty because of being pressure force.
Yeah, sure.
And trying to draw them in, and I like that.
So this is now the long muscles of the shoulder. So this, you can see what he wants to do is that's where that little pullback comes in. But down here and forward where you can see where he's trying to pull him, that drops the base of his withers, so his spine is very much, there we go. So that's why forward and down, good, is also an important angle. Lateral is also an important angle because they talk to different tensions in the body line. But my most important thing for him, and this is like, oh, this is going to bring you so much fruit, is just to start helping him through how he processes his own mental environment. You know, he's like curious, but slightly worried, reactive to pressure, but he has ideas, and the key is just to kind of like, don't be afraid to kind of like stay in those conversations with him, because what you want is, the more we can kind of go into that little mess with him, but be confident to help him get to the other side, the handier you get, because then you can actually expand your world. Because you're not worried you can't get to the other side of conversations. So then that's why I apply the pressure on purpose.
When we were sandwiched with the two horses in the middle here before our session, should I have talked to that shoulder more then?
100%.
Okay.
The only reason he was staying anxious is because so when I walked in, the first thing he did was just slam that shoulder at me.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to talk about it. Now that's also your fault, which is good. Like, he wanted to talk to me about it. He didn't just fail.
Which is huge.
That's a big deal for pressure horses, that they even consider talking to us. Okay, and then, but he actually, when he's coming to me, his anticipation was that I was going to soften to him about how he was responding. Okay, he wanted to talk, but he did not anticipate that I would hold my space with that intention. Okay, and so then the more, when they talk to you, you have to listen to what they're saying. Like, is he expecting me to soften? Or when he comes, is he looking for comfort? So with him, that was him kind of like expecting me to soften. He wanted to talk, but he was like, Josh, you need to move. You need to take this halter off and let me get to the business I have, that's on my schedule.
Yeah.
Right. So then that's where I just stayed. And then it got a little bit more boundary based, and that's fine. I'm fine with that. Because, again, I'm not trying to get at him, but I surely let my elbow get a little sharper when he turned, because he just needed to feel that. But all of this is, we're starting to get somewhere now. And just the recognition that he needs to know when I shake my flag, that taking that in with his eyes, see, that's awesome. And that, again, is you. Okay, you've already taught these things. There's not a responsibility I can take in this. Okay, look at this left side. You see, that's it. Good, excellent. All right, and then as I come in with a pressure, I want it not just to be speed, good, but release. There we go. You see, and that's the timing of it, right? That I want you to heighten, that's right. Because that's going to be the next step of this horse. Is that he gets it deep in his mind. When pressure shows up, I can let it go. I don't have to hang on to it.
I just have to talk to that conversation. I have to have
Yep.
a little bit more clear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly it. And then you see now we're getting to where he starts having a comfort that when I apply the pressure, he knows he can let it go. So right there, he started looking at chewing that time, and then he took a nice deep breath, because he starts to have a trust, and that's where the trust is built. Because the biggest thing horses need to know is, how do I handle the pressures that show up in my life? That's the biggest thing. And do I run from him? Do I soften to it? Do I like what do I do? One more time on this side. A little bit of pressure just as he linked. That's it. And there's that natural bend again. And the reason I call this the mind space balance is because I want to get to a place where his mind is with me, but spatially. Good. Good. I'm just going to stop, take that in for a sec. My rein. This is the next step. Good. If I touch my rein, there we go. Good. Good. And then slowly getting him to prepare his body just a little bit more. So you see I have to raise his head. Good. There, and then I'm starting to get his body. Good. And then again, he loves to just isolate me back onto that left shoulder. Good. And then stay forward and down. There. Yes. This is the next release. So this is again the body mapping of really being able to feel. Good. That's it. Feel the depth of that release from his withers. There we go. And that's what one of the primary releases that lets the lateral work really turn loose is when that wither starts to let go. Good. There we go. Excellent. And then forward and down. Shoulder. So did you see that change?
Yep. And the shoulder went in.
And then, good. That's it. And there we go. Good. And then this, it's just a force that just doesn't change, you know? And that's part of what the consistency comes. And so then my energy gets that impact until soon. It just doesn't even matter how much. There we go. Good. So he's not just going sideways, he's softening. Good. Good. Okay, I'd like you to try, Mary.
Holding the head where it needed to be to top of tension.
That's right.
I was, and I felt like I was pulling, but the up and down.
That's
so that
still
means get
even
out of
more.
there
Yeah.
and start working with this and be up here.
And then, if you can, just put your hand there. And then, see, like here, I'm going to fuss on that because he doesn't pull against this. I'm going to fuss on this. Now, what I'm doing is I'm just waiting for him to still. There. See, now don't throw your head down. There we go. See, I'll take all of these little changes, but you see I'm like way slower, and I'm just trying to think about the molecules in the muscle. That's it. The molecules in the muscles. I'm just trying to make them instead of go like this, I'm trying to get them to move a bit. So you see it's actually way less. It's feel it and just be with it until it starts to melt. Good. That's it. Yeah, right there. Good. That was perfect. See, it's so much less doing, and it's much more about the releasing. So, and I wouldn't let him do that.
Okay, that's going to make a question. So don't let him go down if it's just.
He's not releasing.
Okay.
He's just the biggest struggle that you'll have with a pressure horse is they will learn how to throw their body at you in ways that make it hard to connect to them. They're just doers, but they're not letting go of anything. Okay, so then that's why that close connection. There's a lot more responsibility in that close connection because you have to be mindful that he's going to be wrong more. Okay, but what you have to recognize is that you're really trying to help. Good, and then there I would vibrate my hands, and that was when he started to kind of nip at my arm because he's like, hey, you don't know what my answer is. You're supposed to let me bail my head down. Yeah. So now push against his shoulder with your hip. Good. And just try to be relaxed in your arm if you can.
Yeah, I
Yep.
got tense.
Good. Good. And then relax your arm right there. Yep.
Yep.
And this is, it's like a little harder thing, and it's the reason why we don't want to ever hold a horse super short, because it's easier for them to be more wrong than right. But it's a refinement question.
But this is so much better.
Yes, that's correct.
It's soft.
So if you get to the other side of it, it's going to have way better results. But if you fall back into an amateur state, he's going to feel trapped and want to pull his head away from you.
I think a martial arts class would do me good.
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
Or even Tai Chi, or
Yeah.
something that allows you to feel space. Yes. Good. There we go. Let him go fully. Well done.
Yeah.
That's the difference between that shoulder. So if you remember what we started with, when that shoulder was just cramming up against you.
Yeah. It's okay.
Good. Now, yeah, and just keep, yeah, that's it. Good. Just push on the shoulder. Good. Yeah, right there. Good. Yep, right there. Really well done.
I feel that.
And you can just recognize the biggest challenge with pressure horses is that there's no problem moving them,
Right.
but they move tight.
Yeah, no,
And
there's,
so then they learn how to run away from you instead of soften to you. So that's the reason why getting closer to them with the contact, so that you can really feel and just kind of stay around, gently move that shoulder. It's good. Good. It's actually helpful. It's actually helpful.
oh no, it's,
Yeah. Good. Right there.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Because here's a dose of life. You know? And then look, just keep moving your hips into his shoulder. So you just keep that's right. Just keep walking your shoulder in. Good. And then release right there. Yeah. And then ease again. Your hip goes in. And then as your hip comes in, yeah, good. Just keep that. You're doing the right thing. It's very challenging because good. Release right there.
yep,
Yes.
yep.
So then just encouraging you, if you find, Mary, while you're doing this, you're finding that you're creating more tension than release, then you have to loosen off your contact.
Okay,
Because the closer your contact, the more responsibility on you to get it right.
yeah,
But the closer your contact, the more you can help him understand that running off's not the answer. The looser your contact, the easier it is for him to run away without you being able to stay connected to it. This is a challenging exercise, but this is the feely element that a horse like him needs to get to the other side so he knows exactly what you want.
and it's not wrong for me to use the flag on the hips if
Yeah.
or should I not?
Good question. What you have to do is make sure it's not replacing an ever-present flowing energy.
Okay,
And there's times it is, because you just get a little bit quick. So then what I would encourage there is make sure you have this kind of like ever-present, methodical response in your energy. And if I bump into his shoulder, that's fine. But it's that he's responding to your energy and you can feel how he's responding with your hand. You're just trying to combine that balance.
okay,
So then just go ahead and push your hip into his shoulder again, and then just start to walk in, just keep walking, keep walking, keep walking. A little bit of pressure, that's it, and that's enough. Keep walking, yes, a little bit of pressure, that's it, that's enough. And then, yeah, that's it, release him right there. Yes! Okay, that's a pro skill right there. Because you're having to do, yeah, right. To get that right, you're putting 6 things together that you need to do well. Okay, but to get to the other side of what this horse is going to struggle with in the riding, you need to be able to kind of like combine that. But because you're such a diligent student, that's why I'm showing this to you.
yeah.
Right. Because
He needs it.
Yeah, he does
He
need it.
needs it.
He totally needs it. And it is going to be the thing that's going to allow him to, because he needs, pressure horses need competency. Or they won't trust you.
I would have failed with him as my first Mustang.
Yes,
I think,
yeah.
and
It would have been
Miles.
hard. It would have been hard. Well, you
Yeah.
would have had to lean on a professional more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, Miles was hard enough and I leaned on you two for
Yeah,
sure.
right.
But, yeah, this would have been tough for them.
Switch sides.
Okay,
And then again, think of being fluid. Just trying to think of all the things you want to connect to, but then not rhythmically connecting to anything.
yeah,
The rhythm of your body is the key. So now step your hip into his shoulder. his head up, because this is the problem of, okay, good. Yeah, release right there. Yes, look at the difference.
Yep.
See, the head has to stop trying to like shut you up. What he's doing is he's throwing his head, just trying to throw an answer at you without releasing the shoulder. And the more he is throwing his head like that, the tenser his shoulder's getting. And then that's how there you go. Yep, release him. Well done. So he wants to hold his anxiety in his shoulders. This is exactly the same thing that Sky was dealing with. They hold the tension in their shoulders, but then they soften their head and neck, and they put slack in the rein off their neck. And we're like, oh, good. And they didn't let their shoulders go. So then they continue to take care of their anxiety because I have released him in the tension of that shoulder. So this is why the body mapping and the isolations of the laterals is so important, because it allows you to start being able to isolate those places there's tension. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so then the other tension that I found for him, like that's your lateral, is if you take your rein and then you just start going forward and down. This was a wither release, but it's when he walks forward, so not so much down, more forward. Because again, nothing needs to go down more with him.
Okay.
Now push your hip a little bit into his shoulder. Good, and then just stay until you feel him release through his, that's it. Yeah, right there. Okay, see now he's starting to release his top line, and you can watch, you're gonna see better strides behind. Immediately when they get that wither release, like that release from here forward, the back lengthens, and you're gonna see an immediate change in the stride length. So the lateral is one release, but the longitudinal is another release. And mostly the longitudinal lack of release is why horses pull.
Say that one more time.
The lack of longitudinal release.
Okay.
Like they don't let that go. So what happens is they feel tension and then they suck, it's like this part pulls back. So if you can get that release to happen, and then I want them to do that while they tie.
Okay.
So you've probably seen, maybe you've seen the Tying a Young Horse series.
Oh, I was just, when you were doing all of this, I was gonna say, putting him through the tying series was huge for him.
I would do it again.
Huge.
Yep.
To go through it again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because there's still there's still tensions that he's not letting go of. And then when I first showed up and I went here,
Yes.
he kind of wanted to bite into that again.
Yep.
So I would just kind of like recur yourself on that.
Yeah.
So that you can keep that feel going. Now we're starting to make some changes. I'm pretty happy with this.
Yeah.
But just make sure you recognize that. Okay, so now you want to do that to trot.
Okay. Oh, I switched sides.
It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll do both sides again. Push your hip into his shoulder first. It always starts there because he's shouldery first. Like he leans and then looks. So you then stay on that, keeping your right hand, or your left hand, excuse me, a little bit more towards your body. Pushing your hip into his shoulder. But do not pull his head down. Just stay on the shoulder, waiting on the shoulder. Keep moving it until all of a sudden the shoulder starts, that's a little better. Good. Good. And now again, one of the ways you can tell that the shoulder changes is the head and neck change flexion. Remember, we don't change the flexion of the head and neck with the head and neck. That's probably one of the hardest kind of concepts to get your brain around in the beginning. But if you change the shoulder, the head and neck will change every single time. There you go. Good. Okay. So that was better, Mary.
Okay.
But that was taking too long.
Yeah.
So you have to lower your standards.
Okay.
See, excuse
Yep.
me. When you start asking, and this was a thing with Sky, when you start asking, you have it in your mind what you want.
Right.
And I want them to release a certain amount. But if it takes me over a circle and a half, my expectation is either greater than my capacity or greater than the horse's ability to succeed. So then I lessen the quality of the release I'm going to take. So the more competent I am, the more prepared the horse is, then they will make higher releases. But that stickiness you feel there is going to be what you feel when he's not stimulated. When he's stimulated, it's going to be, When he's not stimulated, it's just going to be heavy. And that's a little bit more of what you felt there. It was heaviness. So recognize those are exactly the same. It's just a tension. One that's dormant. It's dormant behavior. And then another that's actually the expression of the behavior. But making sure you recognize when you go into those shoulders, it's really important to get those to let go.
Okay, so the circle and a half too much. So I should have given it to him, is what you're saying? Like I should have,
You should have lessened the quality of your expectation.
okay,
Because it took like 5 circles and he wasn't changing.
okay.
So that means what you're looking for is above your relationship's capacity
Okay.
in that moment.
So should I have done less pushing in the hip? Should I have
Accepted less.
accepted less?
Right, because
Okay,
there was
that's what I
moments
thought.
when he started to respond, it just wasn't total release.
Okay, so take the little steps.
Yeah, because they have to be successful.
Okay,
They have to be successful. Like, because that's what keeps them trying.
yeah,
If you stay too long, and they're not getting it, no different than anyone.
yeah.
If we're not getting a success, then we'll start trying less. Okay. Any questions or thoughts about this?
No, 2026 is going through all of the stuff in action.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You'll do this like this. You'll do this with his head stall on.
Yep.
Okay, and then what you'll do is you'll do this and then touch him with your stirrup.
This is his head stall right now. This is how he's been ridden.
Okay.
I have a cavesson as
Mhm.
well. I put a bit in for like 5 minutes.
Yep.
So maybe in 20, we'll work on the bit.
Yep. Put the bit on when he's in a calm state.
Yeah.
Or that bit will become a massive emotional outlet.
And I watched how you smear the two.
Ah,
so
perfect.
I've done, yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
great. And then you can just put reins on your bit.
Yes.
But yes, you want to do as much as you can to keep exposing him, keep showing him when he feels pressure, here's the answer. Okay, until it just becomes normal to just let that tension go. Recognizing that you lost a little bit of your shoulder yield because of his head dropping so much. And then recognize that it's about finding where the tension is, not necessarily just getting him to drop his head. But it's almost always a part where we struggle because we see the thing we're trying to do. But my work, it's like you have to feel the essence of what made it happen and let them do it
Yeah.
instead of get them to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Just refining you. And then remember, if you come in there short and it gets too muddy, lessen your expectations. Now, this doesn't mean now you're always going to be holding them here. Okay? You're just doing that to refine that question. And then as soon as you get that answer, you're back onto a loose rein.
Okay. So that was going to be my next question.
Mm-hmm.
Get the release, move on.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yep. And then mindfully from a sensitivity perspective, his level of kind of like anxiety or worry is what, in my mind, especially at this stage, you don't want to get on that. That's why we wouldn't sit on him today. But just keep mentoring him on getting him to this. Until pretty soon, I want to see that he could be overstimulated, but then come back down. And if that starts to happen here, you would just get on when he gets to that place where he's just totally cool.
Mm-hmm.
But this piece is so important for you because this is upping your ability to mentor him. Yeah, is that clear?
Oh, yep.
Yep.
Yes.
Cool. So up to you if you want to go and play a little more or if you want to be done. I'm happy to have you just while it's fresh in your mind, just go and experiment a little bit. Or if it's clear, you can just take him out.
No, that was a piece I was lacking too, is really talking here.
Right.
This level, which I watched you do in your riding work, like especially with Mojo or any of the horses,
right.
where you bring the reins up higher
Quite close.
to
Yep.
find, and so, okay.
Yeah, and if the head is going down too much, I'm raising up.
Yeah.
If they brace their back, I'm coming down.
But it's no different on the ground,
100%.
so that's
Because
what
it's the same horse.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. I'm gonna
Awesome
get,
job.
yeah, thank you so much.
You're
I'm
very
so
welcome.
glad you stayed an extra
Yeah.
day and I got to fit this in and.
Yeah, I'm glad it worked out this way.
Josh, can I ask you a couple questions?
Mm-hmm.
I noticed when she was working, she started off, pushing her hip into the horse.
Mm-hmm.
When you took the horse over, you did more of the, facing the horse and working the shoulder that way. And then when she went back in, you had her do the hip. And I noticed that when she was working the hip, if she did not get so physically on top of him with her hip, but used the flag just a little bit on her outside, it seemed to me that it was more effective. And I'm just wondering, when we talk about a horse's bubble or whatever, is sometimes getting in physically with your hip and bumping them, first of all, it's physically awkward for us. Second of all, is it sort of collapsing the space between you?
Right. So when I took the lead as soon as I presented the pressure, he was leaving me. So then what I had to do is rewrite that code about, Bud, you're misinterpreting. My pressure is controllable by softness, not by you running away. So that was the reason my flag started there, because I just walked up to him and he just ran backwards. Now the spatial piece is that there's really something about what happens is the closer we get to them, the more we collapse. And there's a real, and he kept inviting this conversation. He wanted to have that talk because getting in close like that was what he needed to satisfy that release. So then I started like that from a pressure perspective, but then I did go into answering that shoulder, because there's two things. Yes, you want a spatial response, but he was really closing that gap and wanting to talk close. So that was kind of his need in the space, was to get in there. So gaining a competency in Mary to be in close like that is going to be the way this is going to be answered, because that's the spot. So yes, you can use a pressure, but if the pressure just causes him to run away, it's still missing the point. So you actually want a little bit of sponginess in the space so that you can feel that release more, because with pressure horses, if you're not careful and you can't feel them and then feel them soften, the pressure you apply makes them move, but they're just running away from you. So the more things you do, the more you have to be mindful of not overdoing it. So then when you push in and he's not totally responding, I'm okay with you to play in that, because with a pressure horse, you're going to feel the release better when you're in that space.
And that was good for me to do it, because I'm playing for sure in the yellow.
Yep, totally. And then your nature of sucking back then reinforces his sense of anxiety, because now he's leading himself. And again, that was what he drew me to, is he said, Josh, this is the spot that is allowing me to stay tense.
And he did it. You'd see him move it one time, so yeah. So moving forward, if my horses come back here for training, Pedro and Yutzi should do this ground and see where he is before even considering.
Absolutely.
My horses are coming tomorrow.
Yeah. The key is just getting him to a place any day where you feel him receive you and you feel him soften. And then I would want to get on as he is letting go. So it's like he's opening himself up to our direction.
Okay.
Receiving our question.